New tonight, two transgender Connecticut athletes sparking controversy on and off the track as critics say their transitioning status gives them an unfair advantage over the competition. You know, because they're men that are trying to become women, and if you're competing in women's athletics, but you get all the muscles of being a man, well, then it makes it harder for the women to compete. The two athletes recently placed in the top two of the 55, 100, and 300-meter track and field races at the Connecticut State Championships. They competed in the women's categories despite being born as biological males. Connecticut is actually one of the 17 states that allows transgender high school athletes to compete without restrictions. Joining me right now for their thoughts on all of it, conservative columnist Angela Morabito and independent Women's Forum Director of Policy, Hadley Heath Manning. You know, I can't even imagine what it must be like to want to be a woman when you're a man. And I have a lot of empathy and a lot of sensitivity to that. It has got to be a miserable, horrible thing. But I also feel very bad for the young women that are getting shortchanged in this process as well, because there are two young women that are missing out on an opportunity to get a college scholarship, because they're not going to be able to move on to the championships, because there are two people that were born as men and that are in this transition process, you know, have male muscles. And look, that's just the reality of it, right? It's going to be harder to compete against a man in the track and field than if you're competing against another woman. So Hadley, what do we do in a case like this?
Well, you said it, Trish. No one wants transgender athletes to feel disrespected or left out. However, when we allow those athletes to compete without restrictions, the biggest losers will ultimately be women and girls in the athletic arena. There's a reason why biologically male and female athletes have always competed separately, because the natural differences between the sexes give men an advantage in size and strength and in speed. And so while we all want to provide the maximum degree of opportunity and accommodations for individual students, we also have to balance those concerns with the consideration what's fair for all students. Yeah. And therefore, I think there's not an easy solution here, but certainly it's unfair to ask girls who are born as girls and continue to compete as girls to race against people who are born as males.
You agree with that, Angela?
I do. The most important and the most ethical thing we could do here is set up a system where everyone gets to play, but everyone has to play fair. Right now, when you have people who were born in male bodies competing against cisgender women, those people who were born male, no matter how they define themselves, they're going to win every time. So when trans athletes are allowed to compete alongside cisgender athletes, ideally that would be great. Biologically, it's just not the reality. And when transgender women start competing against cisgender women, the winner is always going to have an XY chromosome. So someone who, they all define themselves as women.
Listen,
great.
No, I hear you. Here's the young woman, by the way, one of them that's getting shortchanged in this process, one of the teenage girls. Let's watch.
I missed out on qualifying for further meets and showing off what I can do in front of college coaches and furthering my career in track. It's frustrating and in a way demoralizing when you're at the start line of a race and you know what the outcome of the race is before it even happens.
Yeah, it's hard to compete, I guess, against those different chromosomes, as you say. Anyway, we'll keep following the story. Angela and Hadley, thank you so much. We'll get a lot more Trish, Regan Primetime for you next.